Hi there, my name's Andy, and for the last 17 years or so, I've had a vision of making a video game or mobile game based on the Bible. Recently, that vision has evolved into this project called The Serpent and the Seed that our team's been working on. But where do you even begin with making a game out of the Bible? Now that we've been at it for a little while, I thought it'd be helpful to share some of the process that we've settled on. So number one, start with the Bible. Read the Bible, read it again. You'd think that was obvious, wouldn't you? But you'd be amazed at the temptation to just rely on what we think we know of the story, rather than actually getting into the text and the details. If you don't believe me, just answer this. How many sheep did Noah take onto the ark? You think it's 2? Well, then you'd be wrong. It's actually 14. The more you can get into the detail of the text, the more it comes to life, the more ideas you get for visual elements or gameplay elements, and the closer you can get to actually what is the message God's trying to share with us from this bit of the Bible. Next comes that process of trying to gamify it. So taking the Bible and trying to actually work out, what do you do? What is the gameplay of this? This involves lots of daydreaming, imagining, sketching. You're looking in the text and you're trying to think, what is the kind of core thing that God is trying to teach us here? What is the crux of this passage? And how are we going to turn that into gameplay? What are the opportunities to add interaction? What's the key thing we want to get across? But watch out that in the process you don't end up distorting the message that you're trying to communicate. So if you have a passage like David and Goliath, where David says it's not by sword and spear that the Lord saves, then you probably don't want to come up with gameplay that's all about testing your skill and prowess in battle. I've done a whole talk on this topic for the Christian Game Developers Conference if you want to explore that further. For us, the thing that we've settled on from this stage is to come up with a written description of the act. So just prose, a few paragraphs of exactly what happened step by step in written form. Next step, refine it. Once we've got our written description of each act, we've tended to take a few weeks to ponder it, to review it, to chat it through, to look for ways that we can streamline it or simplify it, maybe combine it with other ideas from other acts. The first draft you come up with is never going to be spot on first try, so there's no shame in that. It's a good opportunity at this early stage where it's very easy to make changes to do that review process. Next step, storyboard it. For us, the next step in the process has been to take that written description and then turn it into storyboards. So that's really quick sketches, just getting a sense of some of the visuals, how it flows together from one scene to the next. The focus here isn't at all on making it look beautiful. Just stick-man drawings is absolutely fine, but it's about getting a sense of that flow. We found this step to be really important, and when we've tried to skip over it, we've ended up really regretting it. Next, prototype it. When we first started working on this project, I assumed that the next step after storyboarding was to just get on and make the game. So I started working with an amazing artist to create all this beautiful artwork. I started piecing together all the different scenes and spending ages making it look great. But I've learnt the hard way that we just weren't ready for that at this stage. The most useful thing to do at this point in the game is just to get on and build a quick prototype, and the emphasis really is on quick. Speed is the important thing here, trying to throw something together that represents your storyboards but in a more concrete form. It doesn't matter if it's ugly, it doesn't matter if there's bugs or if there's bits you've left out. The emphasis is on getting something that you can play and test and try out. That's when you're going to discover if it's actually any good, if it works, if it makes any sense. Because the thing is, you can have all these ideas that sound fantastic on paper, but when you actually come and play it in game form, you discover it just doesn't work, or it mostly works, but perhaps there's a few awkward corners, or it's only by playing it that you really get a feel for how it works. So for us on The Serpent and the Seed, in Act 2, you get this kind of high-level overview of 4 different Old Testament characters. So I set myself a goal of, can I prototype each of those characters in 1 week? So by the end of that month, I had a sketched out version of those core gameplay elements. I recently heard someone describe the goal here as not as feature complete, because that's far too high a bar, because you know that this first version is going to be terrible. They called it feature terrible. So all the things are there, you know it's not any good, but it's an essential starting point for then building on it and making it better. Next step, play test it. Get on and play your game. Again, this might sound obvious, but it's amazingly easy to skip over this bit. The point of the prototype is to let you crack on and play it. Is it fun? Does it work? Which bits are terrible? Which bits are you embarrassed by? Which bits just make no sense? Which bits become boring quickly and actually you just need to merge together a few bits and make it a bit shorter and snappier? For the next step, prototype it again. One of the advantages of throwing that first prototype together as quickly as possible is that you don't have time to grow too attached to it. There's no bits that you kind of can't bear to part with and throw away because you didn't spend very long on it in the first place. In our experience, there's always been this second prototype phase where we've tended to throw out quite a lot from the first prototype, change a few ideas, merge a few things together, and that second prototype is usually much better. It's starting to feel much more fun, much more like a real game, and it's starting to really work now. It's still just as rough and ready as the first one, but it's beginning to feel much stronger, much more coherent, and ultimately much more fun. And finally, make it properly. This is the point where you want to get your coders and artists and musicians and sound designers and animators involved. But the beauty of waiting until this point is now you actually know what you need to make because you've prototyped it. We're not quite at this stage in earnest yet, so I won't say any more about this. But if you are interested in getting involved, do get in touch with us. So there you go, that's roughly our process. We've still got a long way to go in this, and I'm sure we'll learn plenty more lessons along the way. But I hope that's been helpful, and I hope that gets you somewhat excited for the Serpent and the Seed, and we look forward to sharing more in the future. If you want to get updates on how the project's going, don't forget to subscribe to this channel below.